What is good, guys? Welcome to Flav Orellana's MMA show. I'm your host, Flav Orellana. All right, and wow, we have a lot to talk about. So, we just finished having UFC Vegas 10 fight night, headlined by Michelle Waterson versus Angela Hill. Overall, a pretty good card. Can't complain about it. There was it wasn't supposed to be Angela Hill versus Michelle Waterson as the original headliners. It was actually supposed to be Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira fighting at 205 for the light heavyweight division. But because Glover Teixeira had gotten COVID earlier in the month, that wasn't the case. Okay, so we will go immediately towards the main event because that's what everybody's talking about. All right, so Michelle Waterson ended up having an outstanding performance. Same thing with Angela Hill. Easily it ended up becoming fight of the night. Easily fight of the night. There was no questions asked. There was no other fight that competed, to end up grabbing that title from them. But okay, so this bout was a women's strawweight, between these two. Both of them, Michelle Waterson was in the top 10. Angela Hill was ranked in the top 15. Both of them were trying to make some type of noise, trying to climb up closer towards the rankings and possibly getting a title shot in the nearby future. Michelle Waterson goes into the fight, as in a background of karate, while Angela Hill has a background in Muay Thai and she has boxing in her background as well too. So going into round one, Angela Hill dominates round one. Her boxing was superb, throwing volume of punches, throwing a bunch of combinations, throwing all these punches and combinations, throwing off Michelle Waterson. Michelle Waterson was having a hard time just trying to get close to Angela Hill and getting clean shots, and then getting like a little bit of a bubble above the right temple. And Angela Hill easily goes out of round one with a 10-9 score. Round two is more of a repeat of round one. Angela Hill throws volumes of punches, leg kicks, you name it. Michelle Waterson is just trying to get through, trying to find out, the timing of Angela Hill. Michelle Waterson's throwing a little bit of side kicks, a little bit of low calf kicks, punches, but it wasn't enough. Angela Hill was dominating the second round. I had what's it called? Angela Hill going into round at the ending of round two, 2 rounds to nothing, 2018 score, Angela Hill. Round three, this is where the match starts to turn a little bit. Round three, Angela Hill was doing her thing in the first minute, throwing combinations. Waterson was trying to defend herself. Waterson was throwing, a right haymaker, whenever Hill started to throw her left. But within, I believe, like 350 left or 345 left in the third round, Michelle Waterson throws a combination, was able to get close enough to Angela Hill, brings Hill down to the floor with 3.5 left in the third round, and then from there on, Angela Hill was not able to get up, was having a hard time with Waterson's wrestling, with Waterson's ground game. All right, started off with Michelle Waterson being on top on the half mount, throwing punches on the ribs, throwing punches on the head, doing anything means possible to gain control. Because in UFC, in MMA, ground control is very, very huge. The fact that she had that takedown was huge. All right, Waterson ends up throwing, I believe, like 16, 17 punches at one point, and Waterson ends up walking out of the third round with a 10-9 score. Some people were in favor of a 10-8. I disagree. But at the ending of the third round, Angela Hill ends up kicking Michelle Waterson in the face illegally. All right. When a fighter is grounded, when a fighter has what's called at least one hand on the floor, nonetheless, Waterson had both her knees and hands were on the floor. Angela Hill was laying down on her back. She ends up throwing a kick right to the face, and it was illegal. You can't do something like that. Referee Mark Goddard gave a fair warning towards Angela Hill and her camp that stuff is not going to be allowed. All right. I thought it was a very cheap thing to do. I thought it wasn't necessary, but it is what it is. Going into the fourth round, Waterson was trying to go for the takedown, unsuccessful, but she was throwing side kicks. She was throwing, low calf kicks. She was throwing, she ended up throwing a high axe kick that ended up catching, Hill on the chin. Now, most people I know that get a high axe kick right in the chin, they're going down. They're going to sleep. Hill is a different person. She's able to handle that and was able to do it. I was like, oh wow, like that's pretty impressive. All right. Michelle Waterson threw enough punches. Hill looked tired, just because of the amount of energy that she was trying to get herself out of from round three. She didn't have the same pop in her punches in round four. Therefore, Waterson was able to take advantage of a tired and an exhausted Angela Hill in the fourth round. But once again, it's kind of like a repeat of round three. Once the round was over, and Angela Hill ended up landing an extra two more shots to the face through a right-left combination to Michelle Waterson after the bell rung. Once again, Mark Goddard had to tell her, you can't do that. I felt like Mark Goddard was becoming a little bit more lenient. He shouldn't have never been that lenient after the second time. He could have deducted a point. He never did. It's okay. Fifth round. Now, going into the fifth round, I had, rounds 1 and 2, Angela Hill. Rounds 3 and 4, Michelle Waterson. Round 5, now you're going in a 2-2 tie. Anything goes at this point. Round 5, Michelle Waterson is dominating the first minute and a half, maybe possibly 2 minutes, throwing side kicks, axe kicks, anything, to make sure that Angela Hill doesn't get close towards her. Why? Because Waterson is known for karate. Hill, on the other hand, Muay Thai specialist, has a boxing background, needs to get close. All right. The kicks, I felt like, were the biggest deciding factor in this fight because of the fact that it was a separation factor. Those kicks were allowing Waterson to have more separation, more breathing room, not allowing her to get hit as if she was getting hit in rounds 1 and 2. Hill was really trying to rely on her counterpunching, her combinations, her right hooks, that was allowing her to win the fight in the beginning of the first 2 rounds. Towards the final minute, once they heard that they had 1 minute left, it was like all hands on deck. We're gonna start swinging. We're gonna start punching. We don't even care. There's no hugging. There's no running around or anything like that. And it was beautiful to see because it's like that's what you want to see in the UFC fight, all right? And these ladies perform at the highest level possible. So proud to watch that fight. Easily fight of the night. Now going to the judges' scorecard, the first judge had Angela Hill winning the fight 48-47, Angela Hill. Second judge had it 49-46, Michelle Waterson. And the third and final judge had it 48-47, Michelle Waterson. And Michelle Waterson walks out of UFC Vegas with a split decision over Angela Hill. Now, it could have gone either way. I know Dana White was saying something about like there was no true loser in that fight. Both fighters could have won. Me, on the other hand, I had Michelle Waterson winning that fight. Can't see how you can, say that there's no true loser or anything like that. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. And it just so happened to be that Angela Hill walked away with the L. Michelle Waterson ended up walking away with the W. That's how it is, right? Going into the co-main event, this co-main event didn't even last that long, all right? It was possibly like the second shortest fight of the card. Ottman Atzir versus Kama Worthy. Now, I originally had thought this was going to be fight of the night. I was wrong. This fight lasted 93 seconds. Ottman Worthy threw a right hook to Kama Worthy, had stunned him. Honestly, I heard that thud from here. And mind you, that punch was from me. This fight was being taken place in Vegas, and I heard that punch all the way from here in New York. So, it was pretty incredible to watch. Ottman Worthy threw about maybe like 7 to 10 punches, forcing Kama Worthy to go onto his knees, trying to defend themselves. Herb Dean called it off. He was like, I seen more than enough. Ottman Atzir and the walking away, undefeated still, 13-0 over a really good opponent and Kama Worthy. We had a women's flyweight bout between Roxanne Modafferi versus Andrea Lee. Roxanne Modafferi ends up winning 2 rounds to 1 over Andrea Lee. Roxanne, it has improved now, 25 wins, 18 losses as a veteran, comes up with a victory over Andrea Lee, who unfortunately ended up experiencing her fifth MMA loss. Had a fight before that. It was like a heavyweight bout, 205 pounds, between Ed Herman versus Mike Slow Rodriguez. Now, Mike Flav Rodriguez ended up recently fighting not that long ago. So if you hear his name now, I'm like, oh, he sounds kind of somewhat familiar. Ed Herman, man, I was like really disappointed because there's a lot of controversy in this fight. If you guys have the chance to watch this fight, please watch this fight. Okay, so Mike Rodriguez is winning round 1. Doing his thing, throwing combinations, big, strong kid, Massachusetts native. He's putting a beating on Ed Herman. Going into round 2, you got Mike Rodriguez doing more of the same thing to Ed Herman, and ends up hitting Mike Rodriguez right by the liver, right by the lower abdomen, and it possibly could have ended right there. Could have possibly been a potential technical knockout. Ref could have stopped the fight, but Ed Herman ended up preaching that he got hit in the groin. Referee Chris Tione ended up saying, "Hey, he got hit in the groin. Stop." And Mike Rodriguez like, "What are you talking about? Stop. Are you calling off the fight or what's going on?" No, never called off the fight. He ended up just saying, this guy needs a breather, because he got hit in the groin. Never got hit in the groin. If you saw the replay, you would have just saw that he never got hit in the groin. And it's unfortunate because now you're giving a veteran all the time in the world to recover. Never got hit in the groin. He was getting his ass kicked. All right, excuse my French. He was getting beaten down by Mike Rodriguez, and now it's just like, wow, like the momentum that this kid had is going to be taken away because now this guy is getting as much of a breather as possible, and it just sucks. Once those 5 minutes were up, he came back into the fight, and Ed Herman looked like a brand new person. Punches were snapping. He was landing hard punches. Mike Rodriguez walks out of round 2, him winning that round because of the knockout, etc. But round 3, different story. Mike Rodriguez is trying to, capitalize on a win. He ended up knocking down Ed Herman, throwing punches left, right, left, right, left, right. Ed Herman, as a wise veteran, he's on the floor. He captures Mike Rodriguez's left arm, gets him into a Kimura lock, and to make it even worse, puts one of his legs over Mike Rodriguez's head, trying to secure the stability, making sure that Rodriguez is not going to get out of this Kimura lock. And he cranked the arm as high as possible as he could think. So he ended up probably bringing it up to here. I thought he snapped this kid's arm, and it was unfortunate because Rodriguez had to tap out. If not, he was gonna end up having a broken arm. But the controversy behind this is that Ed Herman was going to lose if it wasn't for the referee, making that blank call saying that he got hit in the groin. I don't know what he saw. After the fight, after the card, Dana White was flipping out, calling out Chris Tione, that this is like one of the worst referees that he's ever seen, ever. And I agree with him. Chris Tione says, as of lately, has been having a bad rap. And in the past, I kind of have defended him. This time, I can't defend him. It's really impossible to defend him. But yeah, this was really bad, really horrible. I was really disappointed about this. This was possibly like the biggest stain on the card. Because, ruined a good fight, But thank God, UFC, Dana White, they said that they're going to grant Mike Rodriguez his win bonus because they said that he technically did win the fight. And Mike Rodriguez's, corner, his manager, they're going to appeal with the Nevada State Commission about that he should have won the fight. So we'll see what that happens. We had a fight prior to that. It was a lightweight bout at 155 pounds between Bobby Green versus Alan Patrick. And Bobby Green has been dominating 2020. 2020 has been one of the worst years that we've ever experienced. But Bobby Green is making the most out of this year. All right. 3 wins, 3 fights in 3 months. All right. It looks like Bobby Green is having a late resurgence in his career. This late into his career, and with the amount of wins that he's been doing, the amount of the way that he's been fighting, the way he's been performing, he deserves to be in the top 15 now. I'm becoming a big fan of him. I like what I'm seeing from Bobby Green. This guy's boxing, his wrestling, his ground game, it's the complete package. I don't know what he's been doing as of late, but it's pretty amazing to see, what he has done. I tweeted out saying that Bobby Green is possibly the most exciting fighter on this card, and he is. This guy's full character whatsoever. All right, he dominated all 3 rounds. Alan Patrick, in the beginning of the first round, tried shooting a double leg takedown, but it didn't work because Bobby Green and Alan Patrick ended up bouncing off the octagon, and then ended up falling forward. And Bobby Green was not letting Alan Patrick get up. His wrestling was superb. All right, and his boxing, like I said, the way that his punches were snapping, he was able to dissect anything that he wanted to do on Alan Patrick. Bobby Green took this fight wherever he wanted to. All right. Then our first fight of the main card, Billy Quarantino versus Kyle Nelson. Billy Quarantino just recently came off of a fight earlier, during the pandemic versus Spike Carlisle. Ended up winning that fight. Kyle Nelson coming into the fight 13-3. Billy Quarantino ends up getting the knockout 7 seconds into round 3. Impressive knockout. Billy Quarantino is slowly getting on a roll right now. As for the prelims, we started off the UFC fight card with Sabina Mazel versus Justine Kish. Sabina Mazel has great length, for that flyweight division. Comes into the fight 8-1. She's 8-1 for a reason. And yeah, her kicks, her punches, ends up knocking down Justine Kish in the 3rd round and capitalizes on top of that, she ended up capitalizing on a rear naked chokehold, forcing Justine Kish to tap out and ends up leaving as the victor. Sabina, the Colombian Queen Mazel, improves to 9-1. We may have something, as a potential, true prospect in this women's flyweight division. We'll just have to wait and see. But I like what I see from this chick over here. She looked pretty impressive. Second fight was Brian Barbena and Anthony Ivy welterweight bout. Barbena, was no doubt of a easy winner over Anthony Ivy. Anthony Ivy had no answer for Barbena's punches, his takedown defense. This guy was just throwing punches left and right. Even when he was on his back, he was just dominating. And Anthony Ivy, just lesson learned that you just got to do more. You can't allow yourself to get hit even when you're on top. Then third fight of the prelims, we had a catchweight bout at 165 pounds between Brock Weaver and Jalen Turner. Brock Weaver is coming into this fight on a 2-fight losing streak. Jalen Turner, he's coming in 9-5, and wow, Jalen Turner was heavy favorite, and there was a reason why he was a heavy favorite. Sneaky fast punches with a lot of power into those punches. Brock Weaver had no answer for round 1. Got hit hard, got stunned. I think he was, if anything, more amazed that he got the way he ended up getting hit by Jalen Turner. I don't think he was anticipating his right hand being that strong. But in round 2, Jalen Turner was being as calm as possible. The telecast was saying that he grew up watching Anderson Silva, and when I was watching this fight, it kind of looked like I was watching an Anderson Silva type of fight. I'm not saying that Jalen Turner is going to be the next Anderson Silva, so don't put words in my mouth. But from what I saw from Jalen Turner, he has pretty good punching power for somebody of his frame. Ends up knocking down Brock Weaver. Had an opportunity to capitalize on it, but he was like, "No, I'm gonna let you get back up, and then I'm gonna try to finish you off." Lets Brock Weaver get back up, knocks him down, gets on top of him, gets the arm underneath the neck, goes for the rear naked chokehold, making Weaver tap out. And Jalen Turner comes out with the victor, improving to 10-5. It's unfortunate that Brock Weaver is now on a 3-fight losing streak. Who knows what happens with this kid? Just because usually, if you're not a household name and you lost already 3 fights in a row, it's not a good sign for you. I'm not saying that this guy's gonna end up losing his job, but Brock Weaver is about to be running out of a few more chances to stay on this UFC roster. We had a heavyweight bout between Alexander Romanov versus Roque Martinez. This was a pretty fun fight, in my opinion. I mean, Alexander Romanov, true prospect, going into the fight 11-0 versus Roque Martinez coming into the fight 15-5. Alexander Romanov in round one ended up doing something crazy that I hadn't seen happen in such a long time. Alexander Romanov ended up pretty much German suplexing Roque Martinez. Now, last time I saw like a German suplex, it was a WWE, and last time I checked, not many he would do that stuff in the UFC. And to grabbing him from behind and German suplex him, kind of like a hip toss. And Roque Martinez is like 265. He actually looked more like 285. Imagine a 285-pound man being hip tossed, thrown like nothing. That's to show you right there the power that Alexander Romanov has. Alexander Romanov ended up capitalizing with his hammer fist, punches, his ground game, ends up hitting, Roque Martinez really, really hard. And like these studs are hurting. I'm like, it hurts me even listening to these studs. And Alexander Romanov ends up using his ground game, turns it into a submission and forcing Roque Martinez to tap. Impressive win for Alexander Romanov. We'll see what happens with him. And then we had a lightweight bout between Roosevelt Roberts versus Kevin Croom. Roosevelt Roberts was supposed to fight Matt Frevola. Frevola ended up pulling out due to injury, so UFC ended up calling in Kevin Croom, making his UFC debut. And this man deserves $50,000 for his performance because Roosevelt Roberts, I had him winning. I even tweeted out, I see him knocking out Kevin Croom in the second round. I had to apologize to Kevin Croom on Twitter because I'm like, Kevin Croom looked dominant. He only allowed his fight to be 31 seconds and ends up hitting Roosevelt Roberts, staggered him, capitalizes on the submission, forces Roberts to give up, and Croom walks away as the victor. Jeez, man. What Kevin Croom did, taking this fight on, I think it was 1 day notice, 2 days notice, it's incredible. All right. And he took the big risk here. All right. Roosevelt Roberts was already training. Croom comes in, taking a big risk, and it ends up panning out. And lastly, our feature prelim was women's bantamweight bout between Julia Avila versus Sarhiria Eubanks, and Sarhiria Eubanks ended up walking away as the victor. So overall, if I had to rate this card, from prelim to main card, I wanted to say I want to give it like a B minus because I feel like the Ed Herman fight kind of took a little bit away from the card. And there were like a few fights that I felt like were a little bit snoozers, like Roxanne I'm about to say Monafield. Roxanne Modafferi and Andrea Lee was kind of a snoozer in my opinion. You had the Julia Avila versus Sarhiria Eubanks as another snoozer. So, and also the fact that I'm still thinking in my head that this fight was supposed to have Thiago Santos and not the Roosevelt Roberts, Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira as the main event. It really takes away from it. It's really unfortunate, but we really didn't have like too many household names. The only household name was like Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill, but it was pretty impressive what Dana White and Sean Shelby and McMahon were able to pull off. Overall, from all these prospects that we've seen today, it's a solid B minus. All right. But next week, this possibly could be like a pay-per-view card. So next week in Vegas, is going to be UFC Vegas 11 headlined by Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. These two been having a beef for the last 2.5 years. Colby Covington has been known to use politics, in this feud. Tyron Woodley's trying to get back at his former training partner, his former partner that he had at American Top Team. Colby Covington is no longer in the American Top Team. So both have been coming off of losses. Colby Covington came off a loss off of Kamaru Usman that he had last year in December. And Tyron Woodley is running on a 2-fight losing streak. Recently just fought Gilbert Burns, and he lost the belt prior to that against Kamaru Usman. The co-main event for next week's card is Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Nico Price. Anytime you put Nico Price in a fight, it's going to be amazing. Recently came off a loss against Vicente Luque. That was fight of the night, if I'm not mistaken. Donald Cerrone, surprisingly, he hasn't fought since the Conor McGregor fight. So that should be pretty interesting. And then we have the hype train himself, Kazmat Shemaya. He is fighting next week versus Gerald GM3 Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert has been talking a lot. He's been in a couple of interviews for different podcasts, saying that he's going to hurt Kazmat, that his style of play, his style of fighting is the kryptonite for him. We'll see what happens. Then we have a light heavyweight bout between Johnny Walker versus Ryan Superman Spann. This should be exciting because Johnny Walker had a lot of high aspirations last year. He's been on like a two-fight losing streak, possibly 3-fight losing streak. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Ryan Spann is no joke. He's somebody to be reckoned with. So I'm very interested. These styles, make fights, and I feel like this right here, Walker versus Spann, has the potential of being fight of the night. Then we have a women's strawweight bout between Mackenzie Dern and Ronda Marcos. Ronda Marcos is the veteran, and Mackenzie Dern is trying to improve to 9-1. And lastly, to begin the main card, it's Kevin Holland versus Darren the Dentist Stewart. That's Javier's, that's the heavy jalapenos favorite fighter, the dentist himself. That should be a good fight. I mean, Kevin Holland recently came off of a victory. He just fought a couple weeks ago. Darren Stewart, the same thing too. Really looking forward to this card. I mean, this card, top to bottom, this main card is insane. I mean, hopefully they're gonna add, a bunch of like prelims, for this card. Really looking forward to this card. This card starts on Saturday, September 19th at 8 o'clock for the main card. All right, guys. Well, I'll be talking to you guys more about on Monday. I'll give you guys, my reactions, to everything that has transpired. All right. We'll talk about Nick Diaz. We'll talk about Dustin Poirier pulling out of the Tony Ferguson bout. We'll talk about, who does Dana White have in store for Tony Ferguson to fight on the card between Khabib and Gaethje, and much more. All right, guys. So without further ado, I'll see you guys on Monday. I'm Flav Orellana. All right. And you guys have a good night. All right. Peace.